Don't forget to sweep on your way back.
Mayor Kukta?
Here.
Ms. Dara? Here. Mr. Hopkins?
Here.
Mr. Muff?
Here.
Mr. Westbrook?
Here. All right, first on the agenda is Dave, proposed storage building, Dave's Auto Body. Why don't you come on down here? Okay, we had some planners comments for you. Take that for another one. Brian, can you, fill him in on, last meeting you wasn't here, so.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll do that. I have a memo dated April 14, 2014. Mr. Mayor, really the only significant issue on here, it's not necessarily an issue, but the applicant's proposing a 0 side yard setback from the south property line. The Plan Zoning Code does provide the Planning Commission with a degree of latitude to adjust the required setback if the applicant provides a unique and sensitive design of the site and the building. I refer to section 116903F3 that provides the commission with that authority. So the reduced setback can't have any negative impacts on surrounding property owners, is essentially what the code says. So the property appears adjacent to the property appears to be an electric substation where the 0 setback's being shown, so it likely won't have any negative impact on that adjacent property. So the Planning Commission can determine if they feel that this won't have a negative impact, they can adjust that requirement and not make the applicant go for a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The only other thing that I talk about is that the commission should be aware of relates to landscaping, possibly providing some additional landscaping along the long sort of blank wall facade facing Valley View. Some type of trees maybe could be used to break up that facade. It could be something as simple as a row of shrubs or some arborvitae. An existing row of arborvitae does exist along the south property line abutting the substation. It's unclear whether that's gonna remain or not with this proposal, so the applicant probably could shed some light on that. So again, those two issues, the setback being the more germane issue that the commission will need to take some sort of action on for the plan to move forward. So with that said, I did point out that if the commission feels that the section 116903F3, the section regarding the adjustment of the setback is applicable in this case, then the commission could grant that and allow the 0 setback.
Thank you, Brian. Janelle, Nick had some comments, please.
I can handle those. I talked to Nick, he had some, I can read off what he had really quick, but I did discuss this with him. Applicant should submit a site plan meeting the requirements of 113705 of the Macedonia Codified Ordinance. This is specifically engineering. Would like to see the following review, any proposed utility work and site grading plan. I did talk to Nick after he reviewed this, and I said there is no site grading. It's existing pavement in the area that this addition is going to go, and there is no sanitary work or anything like that. This is just strictly for more room for them. So those items don't pertain, and Nick was fine with that.
Very good. Donnie, you had something?
Just that the building plans will have to go to the building department for code compliance. Construction plans.
All right,
And we do have something from Dennis too.
all right. Would you read that, please?
Yeah. The wall materials of the proposed addition should match the materials of the existing building and be finished to match. The proposed addition will end up making a 40-foot plus long blank wall facing Valley View Road. The commission may wish to require some landscaping to screen the portion of the building from Valley View Road. The remainder of the lot is already nicely landscaped.
So basically, also we have is some concerns for landscaping, some concerns for the plants going to that, and those can be conditions. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Any comments?
Are you willing to put up some trees, get some Copy that, and everyone will match the building.
All
And
right,
not taking down and shrubs that run along the power.
okay,
Not.
okay. Good, because, there's a whole bunch of people that hang around that place, not really. All right. Anything else? Do I have a proposition from anybody in
I think
regards
we'll,
to this?
we have to mention the zero yard setback law, that's allowed, which I'm okay with.
Motion?
Make a motion, we approve the applicant with the conditions set forth by the city planner, and say we accept that, accepting the zero setback. Second.
I have a motion, a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, next on the agenda is proposed signage at 7-Eleven. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm Tom. Well, I don't think you're Amy.
No.
So, do you have a card or anything?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. Well, who are you?
My name's Jay Jessica.
All right, did you hear that, Janelle? Yes, put it.
Jay Jessica, J S K.
Okay, we had some comments on this from Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My memo is dated April 14th, and I'll just summarize some of the comments. Really, the square footage is acceptable based on what's allotted for the site. The only issue relates to the additional sign that's on the one wall facade. That additional sign is not permitted by code. This is something that came up, I think, back in 2008 or 2009. We talked about this at that time, and the planning commission determined that frontage wasn't entitled to an additional sign. So with that said, that's really the only the issue with the site, with the plan. Now, I will say that the proposal also includes an ATM wall sign, but it says it's being installed by others, so at this time it's not being presented, so we'll need the details with regard to that at some point. And then the site is located in the town center district and has to comply with Chapter 1172, the architectural requirements for Chapter 1172, and I just recommended that the city architect should confirm if those standards are being met.
All right, Brian, thank you. Were there any other comments from Dennis? No?
Nope.
All right, any comments or questions from the commission? So the one sign isn't going to
Or
work.
this wall that they're facing, I think that's our late. The one that wasn't there before.
All right, do I have a motion conditional on that signage that's on the side?
Have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Bob.
Second.
Seth, and second. Any other discussion on that?
So that's to approve with the excluding that sign.
Correct.
Excluding that sign. All in favor?
Aye.
You're good to go.
Thank you, sir.
See you. Thank you. All right, next is Dos Coronas, proposed concrete patio. Hi, how you doing? All right. Are you Giuseppe?
Yes.
All right, nice to meet you.
Same here.
All right, we had some comments on this, Dos Coronas. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read from my memo dated May 10th, 2014. The proposal is to construct a small concrete patio addition about 787 square feet adjacent to the existing building, and that's located at 269 East Highland Road. The site's in the B4 Highway Business District. Based on a review of the proposal, I have a few comments. Section 116705 F1 of the code does require a 25-foot side yard setback. The southwest side of the patio is proposed to have a 0 setback. This portion of the proposed patio is adjacent to an ingress and egress easement situated between two existing buildings. To construct the patio as proposed, variance from the Board of Zoning Appeal is needed. Relative to the patio area being situated adjacent to the ingress and egress, I looked at that and I couldn't readily see the need for that easement and why traffic can't be rerouted around the patio area. So I just put a comment here that I encourage the applicant to work with the adjacent property owner to examine the feasibility of eliminating the easement and fencing that area off so cars can't travel in between the two buildings. The only potential issue I see with that is waste removal, but it looks like the garbage hauler, garbage truck can access the dumpster area from the westernmost driveway off of East Highland. I felt that the proposed fencing is adequate and is decorative in design. I just recommended adding some landscaping adjacent to the fencing if that ingress and egress and easement is eliminated. It'd be nice to add just a little further landscaping to separate the cars. And then just noting that the proposed patio addition will eliminate at least two off-street parking spaces, but the site has ample parking and removal of the spaces shouldn't make the site non-compliant with regards to the off-street parking. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, were you aware of those things you said?
Yes.
Mike?
Engineering offers the following comments. Applicant should submit a proposed pavement section for the patio improvement. 22-foot minimum width is required for the two-way traffic in the drive aisle. And then use of bollards should be considered to provide protection from vehicular traffic.
All right, anything else?
The Ohio Fire Code says it needs to meet section 312 vehicle impact protection. And there's the gas services on that side of the building, so those gas meters cannot be inside that patio.
Okay.
And they'll need an exit outside of that, to exit out of that patio. And
Not even a walk-in gate or nothing, it just gotta be access.
Pardon me?
I can't put a gate on there?
You can put a gate, yes, for the people to exit out of the patio.
Okay.
On what side, Don? The side that is facing right near where the,
Here.
so no cars will be going, okay, no cars are gonna be going up in here, right?
No.
So it's just gonna be the patio itself?
Yes.
All right, and then, where are the gas meters? Up there?
Yeah, I didn't see no gas meters or where the patio's supposed to go.
That second picture shows where the gas station.
Okay, I see them.
That's the
All right.
roadway.
There you go.
That's the drive on that side of the building.
Yeah, see, the patio's gonna stop right here.
Okay,
And then, and there's gonna be a gate right here, and then the patio's gonna go around here.
all right.
So it's not gonna be covered at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioners?
Is this, like blocking off that drive area, is that gonna cause any problems with, fire codes?
I'm sorry, what?
By blocking off or fencing off that one area, is that gonna cause any problems with fire codes?
You wouldn't have access all the way around.
You do that?
Yeah.
Well, we can get it from the front and back.
Access right here.
It's not a long length of building there. So we could get to the back corner, and we could get to the front corner.
What is the capacity gonna be?
I'd say probably about 10 tables, 11 tables maybe.
Yeah. Delivery truck or something.
You know, so as long as the waiter's got enough room to get around. That place does get busy.
Yes.
It does get busy.
Please.
I guess they tried to do this a couple years ago.
I
guess
remember that.
Yeah, I think they tried to do it because they gave me the site plans for it. And something fell apart.
I just don't remember it. But at any rate, you're here now. All right, Mike, do we have any conditions that you feel will have to be included in the motion?
No, if you're just taking a different approach, that would take care of the engineering stuff too. I mean, just fencing it in, that would work. I'd still recommend some bollards anywhere there's vehicular traffic.
Yeah, I forgot to add those in the
I would
front.
recommend that.
I know, that's the first thing I should have did when I'm dealing with a parking lot and taking a couple parking lot spaces out. I
Right.
should have put the bumper in there.
Well, I mean, if you will need, the code is specific for height and width of those, even if you build a wall. We have two in town. If you go over to the Winking Lizard, that wall around the front will withstand the impact of a vehicle. If you go over to Blue Willow, the ballards that they have around their patio, the space so that cars can't get through those.
Okay, I'll go take a look over there.
Well, that'll be part of the condition.
Yes, yes. It would be in
Because it's
there.
on the other side.
Anything else? Yes?
Yes, I do have a question.
All right.
I was just wondering, because an outside patio and with guests from the hotel or anything, is there gonna be a problem with noise or anything like that? Do we have to,
I think they close like at 10 o'clock, I think. 11 o'clock, I think, on the weekends they close.
oh, you mean
Yeah, the restaurant, yeah.
All right, I was just wondering about that, but I know it's on the other side, but you know, that can always be an issue too, you think? No? Okay.
No. Only because they really don't have entertainment or anything there. There's some Mexican music playing inside. I don't think it will be.
Well, it's on the
There are some
hotel's
things that
here.
happen at that hotel that I wish didn't happen.
Don, it's been going on since forever.
It's just there's, you know, laws to.
Well, yeah,
There's
we have
issues,
police officers.
There is enforcement.
Yeah.
I guess if it does, so.
Any other
So
concerns?
you close at like 10 o'clock at night?
I think they do close, because last time I was there, they closed like at 10, 11 o'clock.
Can't remember when I was in there, I don't know how long.
Well, I don't wanna eat Mexican food after 10 o'clock.
Oh, me either.
They have
I already got that
margaritas
out
now.
there.
People are in there drinking a little too.
Yeah, you're over 60, you don't need that.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
They
Do we
do
have a
take
motion?
those margaritas.
They
up,
do,
though.
yes.
They are strong, those
Come on.
margaritas.
Yeah.
That's what they're famous for, you know, gotta go in there and have some of that.
Questions, comments, motion?
So they need
They need the bollard.
if they need, Brian, go over the variance part of it again. They need variance or?
If I can just look up that code section.
What about sidewalks, that when they come out this little gate here, access to the parking lot this way, have some kind of walkway?
I think the gate is for a.
Well, in case if there's an emergency, but what I'm saying is that what if some people do come out the side, that they, you know, cause this is, you know, right. Mhm. Oh, you do, okay. Now I know the patio over by, Chili's, you're allowed to access it, you know, and that's a parking lot right there at the corner, so you got both ways.
Do we have concerns?
I'm okay with it.
So, I mean, you guys can approve it as is, but then he's gotta go back to the zoning board of appeals to grant a variance on that side setback.
Okay, so
For the fence.
we can make it approval.
Contingent on the,
Approval. of
on the bollard.
BZA.
All right, so that's a motion, I
That's a
think.
motion.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
A motion and second, any other discussion? There are some items in there that you're gonna have to do. Are you aware, you have to go to the BCA? Okay, so the next stop from here will be there. And you can contact our building department, they'll set it all up. Okay, and then you go to them, and once they give you approval, you will have, all in favor?
Aye.
You have approval.
Thank you.
Okay, just, see it. moving on, proposed pavilion for Summit Point. Hi.
Hi, Craig.
How you doing?
I'm Craig.
Hi, Craig. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I'm sorry?
I'm Robert Owens.
Robert Owens.
There you go.
I'm a contractor helping Summit Point get through what they need to do to get to actually building. Bob is the maintenance manager, so.
Okay. Comments on this, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brief comments, May 10th, 2014 memo. The applicant is proposing a 26 by 30 pavilion, which is about 780 square feet. I reviewed their application and have minimal comments. 116306D requires a maximum lot coverage of 30% for all structures. I believe that's being satisfied, but the applicant just needs to confirm that that 30% requirement's met for all the structures on the property. And in terms of the setbacks, it maintains the required setbacks from the property line. So at this time, I believe it can be approved as submitted, subject that the applicant demonstrates that 30% lot coverage is being satisfied.
So that'll be a condition of approval. Okay, we go with that? Okay. Any other comments on this one?
Yes, engineering offers the following. Ensure positive drainage is achievable for all areas surrounding the proposed pavilion consistent with the approved grading plan. And sketch of pavilion indicates gutters will be provided. Plan should indicate how and where the gutters will be tied into the existing system.
All right.
And there's one from Dennis as well.
Oh, yeah, that's not on there.
As a reminder, complete drawings by an Ohio registered design professional will be required for a permit. Plans must comply with the 2011 edition of the Ohio Building Code.
So basically, when you get approval from this point on, if they approve, the board approves, when you come back to me with your set of plans, it's gotta be stamped by an architect or an engineer.
Any other questions, comments?
Is this going on the grass or is this going like a patio or? We'll be in a place
You want this picture?
Okay, let's see.
And the material's all wood on this?
Well, we were gonna build it to code, but right now
It's gonna sit.
it's treated lumber.
Snow load and all that? For the
The
winter?
project will be designed for that.
Can you tell me what this is? This is the pavilion. So the truck comes back in here. What is this loading area besides the dumpster? And the
This is-
intercept?
Grace intercept right here, this is the kitchen here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
The kitchen is across, it comes right off our dining room.
Okay.
So this is gonna be like an outdoor dining room.
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Motion?
Make a motion, we accept the applicant as submitted with the exception of approval by administration.
Second.
A motion second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, go for it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you. Next, we have a proposal to park U-Haul vehicles on a property for rent, Space Place, Macedonia LLC. Do we have anyone here? It's almost 6 o'clock. I don't think they're late.
Proposal to.
I make a motion, we table it until somebody's here to represent the company.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on,
Janelle, did they,
Proposed-
did you let them know?
signage
I know.
for Jersey Mike's Subs. Hi, how you doing? Are you Lou?
I am.
All right, nice to meet you.
Basically, what we're doing is a channel letter, LED, illuminated faces on the raceway. Have the landlord approval letter from DDR, so they agree with the layout and the signs that we're going to do. That's it.
Okay. How about, do we have comments?
Mr. Mayor, I could read from my May 11th memo. The applicant is proposing to erect a 2-foot by 19-foot 3-inch or 38.5 square foot wall sign on their tenant space in Macedonia Commons. The proposed sign will contain script-style lettering. They'll have red faces with side returns painted warm gray. I reviewed it for the sign with compliance for the Macedonia Commons and find the following. The wall sign in terms of area is acceptable. It's under the permissible area, which is 46.83 square feet. The only two issues, and they're minor, the side returns are proposed as warm gray and the color bronze is required for the commons. And the signs according to the sign criteria for the miscellaneous stores for the commons shall generally contain block style letters and script style is prohibited. The proposed lettering is closer in appearance to script style than block. The planning commission should confirm if the proposed lettering style is permitted. Other than those two issues, I believe that the proposal can move forward as long as those two issues are addressed.
Are there any other comments?
Do you have a picture? I didn't get, for some reason mine's not in there. Thank you, Judy.
I think we did something for dots. I'm trying to remember. if that
Yeah,
was-
we did actually present
Yes.
that. So-
Right, and that one went ahead and put up, so we're not setting a precedent.
Now underneath here, you know, like when you're walking down to the
Mhm.
walkway, is this sign gonna be the same too, underneath?
I don't have a proposal for that, but I'm sure if that's what's required by the landlord, it would probably,
I was just over there and they do have something
yeah, a
already
little-
similar
little
going.
V-shaped sign, right?
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was gonna be like that.
Yeah, they didn't propose that, so I don't have that with me.
Any other questions, comments regarding this? Do I have a motion?
I know we talked about lettering and stuff like that, but I think we've been, the lettering, the stuff around it, we're, corporate letters.
At
No,
one
no.
time, that was important, but
Yeah.
now, actually, what we want to do is encourage your logo or anything that would make you easier to find.
Well, this is their national style, if you will. That's their corporate logo.
So this
Script. yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So it's like the dot sign and everything else, people look, if you had Shell gas station and you didn't have a Shell out in front on the sign. At any rate, motion,
We're gonna require the bronze, the rest of the,
yeah,
the rest of the.
is that a problem?
Well, I don't see it being a problem. I mean,
Well, then let's do it.
yeah, I don't think that's a big issue. It's more the style and the color.
Right.
If we need that, that's why I wrote it down here, so if that's a condition, we can do that.
Make a motion to approve with bronze side returns.
I'll second that. I think it looks good, so I think we should move forward with that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, Lou, you got another one, go.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, make a suggestion, I see DDR, they do their own review before they send it to us for all these different ones, so the last page there has their review. I might suggest, that we've gone back and had the developer
add a sign color or something, modify their,
Yes.
I would suggest, if we ever talk to them, if someone's talking to them, might suggest that they go back and revise their sign package to either eliminate the thing about the block lettering, so that every time we don't say, hey, I know it says this, but we're gonna go against it. You know, I don't know that we have to call anything specific or just eliminate that part of it so that we can be in compliance with the sign package.
Good idea.
And, yeah, so maybe something worth suggesting.
Excellent idea.
This
We'll
is,
follow up on
the
that.
place is finished and all that kind of stuff, but businesses keep turning over, so we deal with this. We got another one of those staff.
All right. And speaking of another one, let's move on to proposed signage for Alta. Right. Busy place over there, all kinds of things.
Absolutely.
All right, comments on this, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read from my May 11th memo. The applicant is requesting to erect a 6-foot by 15.75 foot wall sign that's 94.5 square feet on their tenant space in the Commons. This was previously Unit 26, Champs Sporting Goods. Planning Commission may remember back not too long ago, we worked with the applicant when they proposed to split the 2 units, or to split the 1 unit into 2 units, and we talked about the coloring for the awnings and such, and I think the Planning Commission approved that at the time. So in terms of the signage and its compliance with the Commons, the overall area is acceptable, the 94.5 square feet, 140 is allowed. Again, we have the same issue, the side returns are proposed as slate gray and bronze are required for the side returns. And the bigger of the issues is signs for the miscellaneous stores shall not exceed 30 inches in height, and the proposal is to erect a sign with 48-inch tall letters. Otherwise, absent the letter issue, the sign is substantially in compliance. In order for it to move forward, the applicant will either revise the request to reflect compliance with the requirements, or seek a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, or if the commission were interested, they could work with DDR to amend the requirements and permit larger signs in the miscellaneous stores, because they are permissible in the larger outlot signs.
All right. Any other comment? Mike? Doesn't this kind of tapering go up? Is that what it
Excuse me?
does? Is the sign taper going up or all the same size?
The letters, the Ulta, U-L-T-A, are all the same size.
All the same size,
Yeah,
and then you
they
got
are
that
48
swirl.
inches tall.
Okay.
And then they have their logo,
You just mentioned
which is
that.
a little bit taller, it's 6 feet, which only goes underneath to the T. But in the overall size of the store, they're only using, they have a 70-some foot frontage. They're only using 12 feet, 11.25 inches in overall width of their sign. The problem is, most of my clients that I deal with have a long name. When you have a long name, you have excess square footage or whatever. Here, I have a very short name, and even though it's 48 inches, it's relatively small in comparison to the size of the storefront. And this is their national identity. They don't really deviate from anywhere where I've ever done a sign for them. And in this case, because of the fact that the square footage is under the allowable square footage, we really don't have a problem with that. In some cases, we have a problem with over square footage, but here we don't.
That entire storefront changed.
I know, they changed
Average.
the storefront a little bit.
Yeah, I
From,
mean,
from when I first got the drawing, they changed the storefront slightly.
but they're changing in the shopping center, making this big adjustment.
Right.
It must be 2 months already.
It's not even finished, I went there 2 months ago
All
to do
right.
a survey for my client, and there was like this space there, and I went by tonight, and there's this space there now.
So we have a developer
Right.
who has a restriction, yet on the other hand, the developer is sinking a ton of money, time, effort
Right, absolutely.
into changing this into what they want.
Mhm.
You would think the developer would stand for a little taller letters. Am I presuming correctly?
It
I mean,
developer
makes
has
sense.
to-
The developer has approved the signs that we have submitted for approval.
I mean, it makes sense, and quite honestly, the scale of what's being proposed
Small.
fits in with the size of the blank storefront area. I mean, if it shrinks too much, it'll maybe look ridiculous, or you couldn't see it.
Right.
So, again, it's a requirement, and as you know, I'm just pointing out what the requirement
Yeah,
is.
you read the rules. All right, and again, Kevin, this goes right in line with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Again and again and again, but what's our feeling on this one tonight? Do I have any questions, comments on this?
Have we allowed other businesses to do this in the past, Don?
Well, we're allowing signs to vary a little bit. Bob, if you go back in time to when that development was first built, they had to be the same color, the same style of letters. They didn't care what your logo was, what your letter style was. It didn't matter, all right? It had to be a certain way. Over the years, we've gotten more lenient with, because of the use of logos and the problem that you have legally if you don't give people the right to express. So there's also another consideration that I think about, recognition from the street being safer. So if you're driving by and you're looking for an Ulta, bam, you can see it. They got the awning, they got the sign, all right? So it makes for a safer atmosphere. The overall restrictions that it had at first were like picture perfect, and they actually won awards for that. But times change, laws change, lawsuits happen, all kinds of things happen. And I've always been one that says the use of logos, the use of certain types of letters actually enhances your business. And if it does that, that means it makes more money. If it makes more money, that's good for the city.
Well, it makes common sense.
That's
It always
That's
does.
always important.
Because I've been in this business for 30 years, and bigger is always not better. And I'm a firm believer in that. But it's aesthetics and how it fits into the overall size of the building. The fact that there is a larger section of the building in the center, and it doesn't extend all the way out to the end. Now, someone could put a sign that stretches out a great distance. Here it's right in the center of the building. It fits, it's aesthetically pleasing. It has a visual component that works for everyone, and it's not like a sore thumb in the middle of everything. So I think this sign, I've been doing this for 30 years, I think this works for the size of the building, the configuration. It's not out of proportion, and it's within the code, square footage allowance.
So Alta is gonna be on both sides, correct, as well as the center?
Ulta,
This whole area is
yes,
going to be Alta?
exactly. The Ulta storefront is about 70 lineal feet of frontage.
That's where they made the split.
Right.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
All right, anything else?
I guess the concern is, can we approve this? I mean, we approved Jersey Mike's subs, but that's somewhat of an interpretation of, is that script letters or is it block letters? And there's some thinking that, geez, that's a logo, would we be messing with on that one? We can't really do that unless it went over to us. This is a size thing that's pretty well, written in there that there's a certain height. Now, I don't disagree, I do agree that the scale is good. I think that size is perfectly fine, except it doesn't meet their sign criteria. I kind of think that this is something that should be fixed.
That's the developer's sign.
Developer's sign criteria.
Well, what if he were to
The
bring in?
developer has approved that already.
Yeah, in
But
writing.
he can approve.
He can
it.
approve anything,
Doesn't,
I know
yeah,
that.
he doesn't care.
No,
They don't
in
care.
writing that it's not a problem with him. Again, too, this gets back to that list that we need from him, revised.
Yeah.
All right, but if he were to bring us back something now where this couldn't go forward, we could approve it tonight, but he can't go forward until we have it in writing that they approve
Maybe
the variance.
something like that, do we have to reapprove the sign criteria if, you know, if the developer says in their letter, will allow this size change, and then, but the
Mike.
package would have to come back?
I don't think you could do that. I don't think you could approve it at this point. I think you need them to, DDR to revise this first, come in.
Well,
And we could certainly send a letter to them and say, you know, you need to revise this.
at this point in time, by not approving this sign, it presents a very serious issue for my client.
Well, I can tell
Because they
you,
have a date that they have to meet for a grand opening.
the only thing I
They're
will tell you
always
is,
months and months and months to bring this to us.
Oh,
They
no,
brought the building
but I
renovations a
mean-
year ago,
oh, I understand that.
you know, or something like
But
that.
no one has said word one.
well, let me
It's
say,
not our responsibility.
Let me
I
say
Tell
this.
them
understand
to
that.
read
I
the sign.
understand that.
They're a long way
They should be
from,
reading the
they're a
sign
long
code
way from being
themselves.
done.
Yeah,
The-
yeah, I really think they are.
this board can approve it tonight on
Okay.
on the condition that you go to the zoning board of appeals and get a variance, because
A variance
technically,
for what?
Listen, the height.
the
The
height,
height of the sign.
yeah.
Because that's
So in
gonna
other
be a quicker
words,
way.
But there's no-
what is
you'll
your
have to show
code
board
here?
shirt.
Now, don't take this the wrong way. What is your code here for square footage?
That allow, for the square footage?
Yeah.
You're allowed 140 square feet,
Okay, and how many square feet am I asking for?
94.5.
Okay.
But that, unfortunately, that's not the issue
Oh, I
this evening.
understand that.
It's the
No, I
height of
understand
the,
that.
of the
And
lettering.
unfortunately, we have a company that has a name that's very short. It's not like Jersey Mike's that goes across here.
We understand, we understand.
And,
We've gone
you
over
know-
that twice now.
No,
It doesn't meet the code.
I'm willing to come back. I don't have a problem with that, because I understand there's reasons for regulations.
Do you have a motion?
I guess before we motion, is the probably the quickest way to have them go try and get a variance with our, you know, if everybody kind of feels that way, recommendation that we think it's okay, the size, the scope, the scale, I think it would be out of scale if they did shrink it down.
Yeah, I love
think
this.
Brian, you
It
said
won't work.
the same
If you,
thing.
if you went to 24 inches in height,
Right,
it won't work on that building.
We're not suggesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
no.
and if you let me finish, we can maybe.
I'm
get
sorry,
this going.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
So, you know, sell it to them, and with our recommendation, we think that the scale is good, we think this is appropriate for the building, or is it quicker to try and get a sign package brought back in for a next meeting, approve that, and approve this at the same time?
When is the
I think
grand
either way, it's gonna come to about the same time.
Actually, I got a notice from the sign company 3 days ago, they want to start production on the signs.
Okay, you don't know when the grand opening is?
So it's about a month from now.
Do you have any idea, Mr. Mayor, have you heard about when the grand opening is?
And Don says it's gonna be a while, he knows where they're at in construction.
They told me, well, I don't know what the construction schedule is, because when I, to be quite honest, I drove by and I was shocked before, because it's, you know, plastic and there's not much else there.
They're still not gonna block off the.
Right, exactly. When I went by today, I thought I was gonna see a storefront, and I didn't.
So. we're
They're
gonna-
slow.
Slow is not the word.
Mike, how long would it take for them to get into the BZA?
I think regardless, he's got a month. Either he comes back to planning with the revised, and I think that's the correct way to do it.
Mhm.
I mean, for future reference, then we're not having this issue.
I don't have a problem with doing
Yeah.
that.
All
I
right.
understand completely.
And we have sent some other people, or we've at least asked them to revise our various things, we said, hey, if you can lower it, you can shrink this 2 inches, we're good to go.
I would keep it just like
And
this
this
and
is
get a
too-
variance.
No,
for
we're not
BZA.
gonna suggest
Oh, I
Yeah.
understand that
I-
completely. You know, I think the
Just let
problem
us do
is
it
that when
so
when the landlord went in for a master sign plan,
That's a lot of years ago.
a lot of years ago, and they had 24 inches, they didn't really think about people have a 70-foot frontage. As opposed to a 24
Yeah, but 24 inch was a minimum.
Oh, right.
Maximum was 30.
Maximum was 30, okay.
You know, DDR's own reviewers need to be a little research, they should have recognized that this is exceeding it. Geez, made a call over to the city, how can we get this thing approved? Well, when you send this in,
Landlords don't
send
do
in a
that.
revised sign
Yeah.
package, you know?
No.
All landlords do is they say that we approve the signs based on the fact that the city will approve it, you know?
No, Mr. Mayor.
So,
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Kevin. I'll make a motion that we table this at this time, and it's got to go through the Board of Planning Appeal.
when would that be?
Mr. Mayor, I was gonna ask, does it, okay, say if we went on and had them just go to the BZA and they all agreed and we approved the signage, would they still have to come back?
We can
To
make-
us, if we,
That's
and then
just
have them
what
just
we
go to the BZA and
discussed.
have it done
We
the next grade?
discussed either way, he's gonna have to go to another meeting, all
I don't
right?
have a problem with that. I understand, I
Okay.
understand rules.
So he
of-
understands
Okay, I was
it.
just wondering if there was any way that it could be
I just don't
done
wanna come back here
where it
again
goes to
after I get
BZA,
approval from
and
the
then
next
they,
one.
they take care of it administratively if we're all in agreement. I like this design, I don't know about anybody else, I think this is beautiful.
Well, that's
I think
not
that-
the question.
No, I know.
Nobody here said it wasn't beautiful or
No.
they didn't like it.
But
We
it's
haven't
same
said
It
time.
doesn't comply.
Can't we do this on, we can approve on a contingency that the BZA approves the letter?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
This is always gonna be
Just
a
the letter.
double contingency. I mean, if you choose, you can either go to the BZA and get it approved that way, or you come back with the changed sign plan. Both of them might.
What I would like to
both of them might
do
the
would
same
be
time.
to say that for
But if
you, for you
I would say
guys
this
to
is
say
gonna be at the
that
same time.
you approve it on a contingency that the BZA would approve it.
But you're getting me at least 4 times.
Because
You're really
I'm
making it tough
sorry.
to approve.
I'm sorry.
It's really tough. I can't get a sentence out
I'm sorry.
without you
I
interrupting.
apologize, that's a problem I
Amazing.
have. No, it's not amazing, it's a problem I have.
So,
So what would you guys suggest as a
well,
administrator?
I would suggest not going to the zoning board of appeals, because one, it's gonna cost you more money. Two, you're gonna have to show hardship, and there's a way that it can be declined if you don't claim your hardship. And three is, this should be revised for the future. So if we get this revised through DDR, not only will you be approved, but then future tenants that come to us won't have to go through the same process.
By the time that meeting gets scheduled and advertised,
It's
and
about the
everything,
same.
It's
we're
about the
probably
same
looking
time.
at coming back
Yeah.
at the same time.
If I could just dovetail on Mr. Ladd's comment, the only other suggestion I would make for this gentleman's sake is, I think it sounds like to the commission, everything's acceptable other than this issue. And if that's the case, the commission could say that we want to have DDR come back to the next meeting, and if DDR approves it, this gentleman doesn't even need to come back, because
Well, that's
that it
exactly
stays in
what
the
I was
meeting.
saying.
Yes.
I said that 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is one slight thing I noticed here too. Brian, did you see the blade sign?
There's a blade sign.
There's just one of them?
This is one blade sign, they do, for some reason, I don't agree with everything they do. They do one in every building that they have. It's between the awnings, and they feel that it's necessary when people are pedestrian traffic is walking through the shopping center.
I guess we don't have anything, it's the sign, on the last page, the circular thing sticking out from the front of the building. I almost think that we have the same kind of thing almost, but you see with the GNC symbol underneath, as you're walking down the sidewalk, it's got one at every business. I think something like that is more appropriate. This would be the only one we have out there. I don't know if we can even, how you even address that, Brian, if it's not allowed, or if it would be.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought, I see the small site voted on at the bottom. I actually thought that was the one that is underneath the canopy, which is, they all have those.
And not to interrupt, and I'm sorry I do, because that's a problem that I have, and I apologize for that. If you were to deny that sign, we don't have a problem with that. It's been denied in many cities. It really isn't that effective. For some reason, the client feels that they need to have a projecting sign, but they also have awnings that are there, and the awnings block the sign. So, I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and it's really tough to make an argument for this sign. So, if you had a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, again, underneath the canopy part where you're walking, that is a permissible area to have that additional small sign. The color is not permissible by the commons requirements. Commons don't allow orange, just red and white faces. So if this were that under part, it would be acceptable, provided the color was not orange.
Based on that, I would say that we would delete that sign at this point because it doesn't meet the criteria, doesn't meet the colors, it's between the awning. And it really, in my opinion, and I didn't say this, it's really not that much of an effective sign, so.
We have a motion on the table, and we have a second now. You wanna rescind that and do it over again?
I forget what the motion was.
He was
It
wanting
was
them to go to the
put
BZA.
Table.
Just table,
Make a motion.
yeah. Anything else? Is that what it was? It was table?
Yeah, we're just gonna go through the BZA.
And then that's gonna be more money, we wanted to go where they go to the other route.
I thought
That
we
Brian
were
talked
just
about.
tabling it until it comes back next time.
That's fine too, I'm okay with that, I will send that then.
Brian,
Yeah.
what's?
That's right, if we table it, it'll be your choice, and they'll let you know which would be the best way. But it is cheaper not to go through. the
Well,
BZA.
cheaper is not the issue here. The
Okay.
issue is the most expeditious way of doing it. And now, what I heard someone say before is that DDR should make some kind of statement.
That was me saying that if
would
that
be-
were
their size would be acceptable
brought
to
to the
them.
building,
I think they actually, what we're saying is they're gonna have to modify their sign package.
Revise it.
Ah.
There's a sign package tool now.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Yes.
How the commission's done in the past, and we did it with Macedonia Town Square, where we amended the color palette, you may remember, for Sprint
Yes.
to allow the yellow. We had the owner of Macedonia Town Square just simply write a letter to the building department, to the building commissioner, asking for that amendment. That got put onto the next available planning commission agenda. So what I would suggest is that's the avenue the commission takes, that the commission tables it at the applicant's request to work out this issue regarding the lettering height through DDR. And the building department could reach out to DDR and get them on the next agenda. It'd be tabled, and if the applicant's withdrawing the small orange sign at this time on behalf of his client, then it sounds like the commission finds everything else acceptable, provided DDR provides this letter, so he wouldn't have to come back.
Second.
that,
So still table, and then you guys will handle.
Now,
No.
does he have to rescind what he
Yes,
originally did?
yes, and I rescind
yeah,
it,
so we have a motion to rescind,
yes.
Second?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now again,
Make
we
a-
use Brian's motion.
We make a motion, we table it at the applicant's consent,
Correct.
and with all his determinations that he mentioned.
Well,
Let's not go
yeah,
through it again.
Do we need to say, or we'll just approve it at the next meeting?
Um,
And he doesn't necessarily have to be
For
here.
the
It
DDR
can be
statement.
on.
Yes, with the letter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The statement the
I
revised sign
understand
package
that.
from DDR.
So is any of that need to be mentioned in the motion, or we're tabling it?
If you're tabling it, you're not accepting it, you have to do that next meeting. But
Okay.
if we have the letter, we can do it.
We just all know that you don't have to necessarily be here.
So in other words, it's an off
As
the
long as the
record
letter is-
comment, that I have to get DDR to agree to the fact that the letter size is acceptable to them based on their new sign criteria.
Yes.
And they can submit a letter to the city
Requesting the sign package.
requesting a sign package change. And then from that point, I don't have to come to another meeting anymore, if they do that, if they submit to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Provided that orange sign's eliminated.
The orange sign is eliminated.
Okay.
Done.
He didn't have his fingers crossed, so I didn't need.
Now, my fingers are here.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he did.
So he means it, so we have a motion on the table and a second, all right? I think we have it all straight, so no more discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And
All
I
right,
sincerely
good luck to you.
apologize, because I have a serious problem.
All right.
It's been my entire life, but I can't help myself.
Join the crowd, I have the same guilty complex.
Right. My wife yells at me, after 45 years, she yells at me constantly.
Now 15 and mine tells me the same thing, and I still can't get through my head.
All right,
Okay,
next.
thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, so we keep things moving, proposed signage for the mattress firm, northeast corner of Rod 8 and Aurora Road. Northeast. I can't be here. I have to,
Conflict of interest.
I have to recuse myself, so I'll turn the meeting over to Rita, and I'll step outside.
He gets a break when we don't.
You're Mr. Richardson?
Yeah.
Hi. We have some, a memorandum from our, planner, Mr. Brian Grant. You're on?
It's a long one, Brian, go for it.
Yeah, so if we thought our head was spinning on the last one, let's talk. Yeah, so I have a memo dated May 11th, 2014. And I'll just go ahead and I'll just read this because this is a, sort of an issue that I think we probably should work through to establish some guidelines for this complex that everybody's, anxiously awaiting to see put up. So, May 11th, 2014 memo for mattress firm signage request. The applicant's proposing a new 2.70 by 28.64 foot, approximately 90 square foot wall sign for their tenant space located at 463 East Aurora Road. In addition, a tenant panel insert for a ground monument sign is being proposed. Please note, to my knowledge, a ground monument sign has not been approved for this property. Moreover, an overall sign package has also not been approved. The property is zoned B1 Convenience Business District. After reviewing the sign package, I have the following comments. Section 1179.03 F2 of the Planning and Zoning Code permits 2 square feet of identification signage for each lineal foot of building frontage. The subject site is a corner lot in section 1179.07 F1 states that the maximum allowable area for identification signs may be increased for an additional frontage. The increase for the additional frontage shall be equal to 40% of the allowable sign area if the additional frontage were considered the principal frontage. However, no sign area on a bonus frontage shall exceed 1 square foot per lineal foot of frontage, or in any case, exceed 75 square feet. Using Route 82 as the primary building frontage, that's approximately 260.79 lineal feet, and Fairlane Drive as the secondary frontage, and that's 80 lineal feet. The subject property, not this particular unit, but the property in general, is permitted to have 585.58 square feet of sign area. At the end of 2013, I reviewed an internal preliminary request for the Vitamin Shop for their tenant signage. At that time, the Vitamin Shop was proposing 156.8 square feet of signage, which left, if you take it off the 585.58, it left 429.5 square feet of identification signage for the remaining 6 tenant spaces. Backing out what's being proposed, subtracting out the proposed 90 square feet from the remaining 429.5, the additional 5 tenants will be allotted 339.5 square feet. On average, this represents about 67.9 square feet per remaining unit. For the smaller tenant spaces, in pairing the 20-foot frontage spaces, this is more than what they would normally be permitted to have. But the larger spaces, as shown on the site plan, First Watch, Sherwin-Williams, and Aspen Dental, will receive reduced area under this scenario. For this reason, I strongly recommend that the owner of the retail plaza prepare a comprehensive signage package for the Planning Commission to approve, and I put in parent section 1179.13 G2. That's the section that allows the commission to prepare and work with a developer or a retail plaza owner to develop this comprehensive signage package. This approach has been done with nearly all the commercial plazas in the city and has helped ensure equitable sign areas for multiple tenant facilities. The planning commission typically sets forth some degree of restriction for the color palette of signs in retail plazas. For instance, in the Commons, as you all know, tenants of the retail strip plaza can only have red and white faces. In Macedonia Town Square, signs can be colored red, blue, green, white, black, and yellow was amended March 12, 2007. The Mattress Firm sign is proposed to be colored white with a yellow accent bar under the word firm. While I don't have any significant concern about the colors being requested, I do think the issue of colors should be addressed in this comprehensive signage package for the plaza. The most recent example of a retail plaza that did receive approval for this overall sign package would be, to my knowledge, Macedonia Town Square. Relative to the 1 foot by 4.33 feet, the 4.33 square foot sign panel insert, I don't have any concerns with the proposal. However, I don't know if the size of the tenant panel is appropriate because, again, to my knowledge, no request has been made for the overall ground monument sign. Based on these comments in this report, I believe the request should be tabled until the commission has a complete understanding of the signage needs for the entire retail plaza. The most important aspect for the signage for this plaza is to remain at or below 585.58 square feet. Using what I would call a piecemeal approach, some of the larger tenants will be deprived signage area, and the city will likely be entertaining variance requests at some point for larger tenant spaces.
Is there any more comments, to know from Dennis or engineering?
No.
No? Okay. Well, anybody else have any
So
comments?
just if you have some issues with
Mhm.
some size.
And my point that I brought along with it, and you probably have a copy of this also, is the site layout of the building. And Brian did a great job of talking. Mattress Firm is the largest tenant in that plant. And coming off of that 140 some feet or whatever for Vitamin Shop, they only have 37.5 foot frontage. With a 2-to-1 ratio, that's the one that really puzzles me on it, and we're coming in under what our square foot allowed is for the frontage. So my thoughts are how they got 140 some feet of the 400 and some with 37 foot of frontage. I thought was an odd thing, but
I'm guessing they probably had something on the side of the building too, Brian, is it, do you remember?
Yeah, I think they may have had an additional, because they're a corner unit, so they're allowed to have more area because they're a corner unit. So you have the 37.5 times
that would be
2.
40% of the frontage of theirs, correct?
I'd have to look back in here and see exactly, but the point being is they're allowed to have more frontage than whatever 37.5 times 2 is, so
Right.
75 square feet. They're allowed to have more than that because they're a corner unit. So again, that was an internal review that I did, and the point of bringing it up was just saying
Right.
simply, we have a nice retail plaza that's been approved, and the city wants to see this move forward. We really should have the developer of that plaza come forward with an overall sign package or some sort of criteria to tell us how to allocate to
Divide
each
that
of the
500
units.
some into-
Right, because if Menchie's came in right now with a smaller space and they wanted 110 square feet, we have nothing that says, I mean, other than they can, based on their frontage, that's all they're allowed to have.
Right.
But we don't have any sort of guidelines that say that we have to stick firm to that, because in the Macedonia Town Square, I believe, and I wasn't here for that one, I came to the city in 2006, and it was, I think, just done prior to that. I believe there was some concessions that the developer of that plaza made with their tenant spaces, and they allocated differently. I actually have that with me, than maybe what was allowed by code, and that was something they brought to the commission. So I think that if the developer wanted to give more to Menchie's or the smaller spaces, they could, but that would be something that they should talk to each of the tenants and negotiate. But coincidentally, and I thought I was right, it used to be called Pelican Park, but now Macedonia Town Square, their overall allotment is 595 square feet. So sounds very familiar, because this is 585, and they have they have 9 total retail spaces, and I think this has 7. So it's very comparable.
I have a question for you, Brian. When Batson had come to us last year in 2013 with their plans, okay?
Which one?
I think the company wasn't it who put in for the permits, Mike? Is it Babson's or, the Osborne Company?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, but it was a different company name that, okay, when they originally did all this, first of all, they didn't have anything on the drawing as to what the companies were gonna be that were gonna be having tenant space there. They didn't wanna release that at that time. And we had, I think, 2 different discussions. This corner lot was supposed to be, you guys all remember this, Mr. Mock, we were talking, it was gonna be a drive-in coffee shop over here, remember? Because the ordering was gonna be in the back, and do you guys all remember this?
Yeah, it was gonna be a Starbucks.
Okay.
Well, at least that's what,
Well,
one of the
so
illustrations.
now
showed.
all of this is coming back too, and this is all different, so I think that we should table this until somebody comes back and does tell us, you know, have a, you know, the signage package, you know, what they're gonna, you know, the ground sign especially, because that's a corner lot and there's safety reasons there. You know, how big is it, you know, what's it gonna look like? Nobody
Yeah,
knows.
those are definite concerns. I just want to back up. The issue of the tenant mix in terms of who's in there is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but as long as the type of use, the name doesn't matter, that's irrelevant. As long as the use complies with the district in terms of the type of retail, then that's fine. And how they want to allocate the signage, again, I believe is something the developer could come back and say, hey, on these smaller signs, even though they're allowed only 40 square feet, because it's a 20-foot unit, we'd like to give them 50 square feet, an additional 10 square feet, and we'll remove it from these 2 units. That is something that they could request and the commission could approve. Or the commission could just say, no, it's total amount per frontage, and that's all you get, and make the issue real easy. And we follow the code specifically, and then we talk more about the colors and the types of lettering. So those are all things that I think the commission has room to work with the developer. I really don't see this as being a big issue at all, but rather, I hate to say it this way, but a little bit of the cart before the horse, because they're filling up quickly, which is great, but we just need to get something on paper that says, here's what we want to do.
Yeah, and I even have a letter from Osborne, you probably have a copy on it. Their last line is that they're working on pylon signage, which is pending with the city right now, so. And I don't know if that's true or not, but,
Yeah.
It's real.
Penny to get there.
Well,
pylon sign is pending with the city. And I didn't know it either, so.
Yeah, all those would have to be discussed.
And you're just representing, or you're
I'm
with the
just,
sign company?
I'm with the sign company
Company
representing
represents-
Mattress Firm, yeah.
I mean, I'd really like.
I mean, they're far ways out, just like you said. and-
Right, because
Yeah.
there's still a gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, real far out.
So I think it's a good idea to get Osborne down on the,
Well, yeah, they were supposed to come back.
they never showed.
Well,
I think for their own good, I mean, we could approve something.
I'm
but for their own good, we should
fine with, no,
recommend that.
I feel like you should, I wanna table this for safety reasons alone, like he mentions in here. Brian mentions the ground monument signage and so forth, that's a corner lot. They were supposed to come back, the last time when they were gonna be coming back, I mean, there was a big issue about the drive-through for the coffee and all this, you know, I mean, it was, the drawings that we had are totally different than this right now. So I have an issue with that.
Is this to that pylon sign you're talking about?
Yes.
Brian, you
Yes.
wanna see this?
But at least that's what's proposed, or
Yeah,
so
right.
this letter says.
Well,
I have to get-
Pelican Square, okay, in 2005, when they passed the Pelican Square sign, under section B, miscellaneous retail signage, each store will be required to have storefront identification sign. Number 1, the lettering, logo, style shall be chosen by the tenant. Okay, now that's the person that's leasing the area, all right? If the tenant does not have a specific style, they may use designated standard, which is indicated, whatever. So, you know, when they say, lettering and logo style shall be chosen by the tenant, it doesn't, you know, color-wise, there is no color. You can't, with that statement, you know, you can't, I don't see any color.
Yeah, I guess they could choose if
Yeah.
they want this, if they come back and sign, if they can choose if they wanna
Yeah.
do it, restrict any colors or anything like that. But I agree, I think they probably need to come back, and I'm glad we're not holding anything up, I don't think, you know, they got you here plenty early.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Rita, that we table this and until we have more clarification from the Osborne or whoever it is that's.
Okay. Somebody's got a second.
Second.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Gotta take
I'm so sorry. Do you need your letter in?
No.
Can we keep it?
You have to vote on,
Oh,
Rita, you
okay.
have to vote on it.
Kayla will make a copy of it, or make a copy of it, and I'll pick it back up, it's not a big deal. And we'll put it in and try and get Osborne out for the
I
next
make a
meeting.
motion that we table.
We have two motions on and we have to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want,
No, no, you can
Brian,
keep it
you
there.
can keep that,
Yeah.
give him,
I provided.
Yeah,
Okay,
Janelle
thanks.
Plano, and I'll get back to his Janelle Kayla.
I guess, yeah, if you can relate to the,
anything to
to your client, I guess, tell them to have the developer contact the city, contact the city or something like that.
I'll at least try and get them to start on the pile on it, they
We'll
say
send
is.
This file and a sign package, we're looking for, but I mean,
Yeah.
it can go a couple ways, you can mention it, and they'll
Yeah.
probably reach
I
out.
sign
Yeah,
it
just,
twice.
I know just by talking
Okay,
to them, that the sign itself is good, the size is good. It's just the distribution for all the clients in there. You know, they don't have any aspect on it.
Thanks.
Hey, you see on it?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
He's coming back. Unless, proposed 6 parking lot and closed in the zoning houses. We had a lot going on. Penske and also GMC. The mayor's talking about that sign guy.
Right. What's the high tail? Oh, no, he's not.
It's not, somebody wanna hit the mayor, like, go on, Mr. Hopkins, say. All right.
Somebody want to text him?
Mr. Mayor, we're on the proposed 6 parking lot, proposed for Nerdonia Hills City Schools at 8006 South Bedford Road.
Do we have anyone here from that?
No?
Do I have a motion?
Motion that we table it until somebody's present.
I'm really surprised that I'm here, because I this afternoon reached out to high school band director to make sure that he was okay with his players being, because they used the back parking lot to practice, and looking at the aerials, and looking at this, it looked like they were to be where they would practice. So I reached out, he contacted
That was
Hartman.
great.
Hartman contacted me and said, no, here's the plan, here's shows it, and I was like, okay, makes sense. He's like, you know, hopefully this won't pull us up from being on your agenda tonight. But then they don't.
And then now we're on to the proposed zoning code change related to.
No, we have a proposal for the light poles, and do I have a
Oh,
motion?
we
You
did.
do, to table it?
I seconded it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, proposed zoning code change. All right, Sylvia? Brian, you had some comments on this?
I did, Mr. Mayor, thank you. My memo dated April 8th, 2014, addressed to the building commissioner. I reviewed a proposed amendment to the planning zoning code that will allow existing detached accessory structures to remain on a property if the primary structure is eliminated. Based on my review of the amendment that was provided, I offered some comments to the commissioner. The planning and zoning code currently does not permit the construction of a detached accessory building without a main structure on the site. I reference section 1133.02, 1 and 4D of the code. These definitions should be amended if the city moves forward with the proposed amendment. Without such an amendment to the definitions, then a claim can be made that the city is treating property owners differently. For example, a property owner can't build an accessory structure on vacant land because the code prohibits it without a main structure, but a different property owner can have accessory structure on vacant land because the code allows for it if the main building is removed. This issue, in my opinion, should be examined by the law director. The current numbering of section 1163, the proposed amendment stops with letter J. I'm unsure exactly what section of the code is being amended with this proposal and how it fits into the existing numbering scheme. If the intention is to place the proposed language at the end of section 1163, then it should be inserted as letter K. The proposed language is confusing and should be consolidated. The language listed under item 1 should reference all of section 1163 and not specifically just 1 through 8 because, in my opinion, the entire section applies. The language under item 2 should be reworded to state, quote, "The accessory building must comply with all applicable city regulations, including use regulations." Given this change, I believe items 3 and 4 can be eliminated. In particular, the requirement that the building department annually review detached accessory buildings on lots without a permitted use could be administratively time-consuming, depending on
That got all cut off now.
the number or complexity of the buildings involved. An alternative approach could be compliant-driven. If the building department receives a complaint and research proves the accessory building is non-compliant, then the code enforcement process will take over and provide the mechanisms to abate the violation.
So Brian, could I just ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
It is K, as you suggested. Number 1, 1163, striking the rest of that under A1. Accessory building was construction in accordance with, and you've got 1163 in your comments. Is that correct?
Do you have a copy of it?
I do.
Oh,
I just
all right.
want to verify that that's what it means.
Could you repeat that, ma'am?
I just want to verify that you meant to remove the qualifying parts of 1163 in the statement.
I'm trying to follow
You
through
were
with you.
in
I have the language in
Case
front of me.
numbering 1160 stops with J, and then you say, the next paragraph says the proposed language should be consolidated. Language under item 1 should reference all of section 1163.
Correct.
And so I was asking you if you thought we should strike the rest of it, which qualifies it.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. I'm just looking for it here in the code 1163. I just want to see how it looks in here.
Okay, sure.
Remember the
Because you're saying Sylvia already references all of it in 1163, correct?
I believe it does if you strike the
Yeah.
qualifying pieces. Yeah. I just want to verify that.
Don't you think that this legislation should be looked at by our law department?
Well, I did recommend that the legislation should be looked at by the law department. I'm just trying to
Since it did
find.
not come from them.
Who wrote
No.
the legislation?
Dave Vandal wrote it,
Okay.
which we have a right to do.
Is Dave Engel going to be the originator? And who's going to be responsible? You?
Not this one.
Okay. So, yeah, that was my confusion is it
Okay.
sort of mixes in 116302H. It sort of mixes in with that, so I felt that if this was gonna be something that was gonna move forward, you should just make it as letter K
11.
entirely.
Okay.
Yeah, 116303K,
All right, and,
or 1163.02K. That's just a-
K.
all righty.
Yeah, that's.
That was, and if I understood your final comment there, the major comment was, the rewording under item 2 would then allow for the elimination of 3 and 4.
Yes.
I don't think there's a problem with that. The language you're suggesting is fine.
Yeah, the language, it was just a little confusing to follow,
Okay.
and that's.
We can certainly do that, because that's just, you know, that language sounds fine to me. I don't see any reason why we should object to that.
Yeah, I think on my memo, the 3 bullet points past the first bullet point are really more just flow issues,
Right.
not really what I would call substance.
Right.
Really, the first bullet point is the one that I recommended go to the law director, it's more substance, because you would have a situation where if this went through, you'd have, you know, a detached structure on a vacant lot just because there was a permitted structure there previously. Now you have that, but in another case in your code, you don't allow that at all, the construction of an accessory structure without a permitted structure.
We do have such a structure on North Bedford right now, but it was grandfathered in, I guess, prior to this even taking effect, this zoning code.
Okay.
And so it exists already. It's just a question of, you know, how to deal with this particular situation.
So it's driven by just that one instance?
Well, it's driven by the fact that it's been not resolvable in the usual channels. We did try, well, we didn't, but the person who would have to spend $20,000 to $30,000 demolishing an existing very good structure attempted to go through a hardship route and was rejected.
Denied a variance.
Right.
So, I mean, in general, typically, well, there's, and I don't mean this to be coy, but there really is no such thing as grandfathering in zoning. It's legal non-conforming. And so if you have a legal non-conforming
Right.
structure on a existing property, that remains legal non-conforming. And I'd have to look at your code to see how that addresses legal non-conformities, but those are typically allowed to remain,
Right.
provided it's complying with your non-conforming section of your code. So as a planner, I would encourage the city to rely on its non-conforming language and not amend the code for, in this case, one single issue.
You know, we can certainly look at that. I think the issue is to get a resolution that is reasonable and rational. And at this point, if there's an alternative suggestion, that would be fine, but I think this doesn't do anything that's harmful to the existing protections, so.
Well, first of all, I offered an alternative solution to this problem, Sylvia, and they threw it out. They said putting up a few trees was not acceptable. I have a couple of members here from the BZA. They have asked to be in attendance tonight because there's very strong feelings that we're changing our codes for one person. And I don't even know if that would be relative because this is after the fact. I think that would have to still be carried forward even if this legislation were to move forward. But to say that there was nothing done to try and do this, I even had council waive the fee to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals again and promise to be there with this gentleman to work out a settlement, and I was never taken up on that. Ladies, did you have a comment that because you're here and you're on the BZA, perhaps you can inform us a little more?
I totally agree with what you say. Passing legislation for one instance, it always will backfire, you know, because we shouldn't pass it just for one thing. But there's so much involved with this and other opinions I expressed before, but one of the main ones is if you have a storage building on an empty lot, the safety issue is so great for anyone surrounding it. If you have a garage or a shed in your backyard and you live in that house, you're going to be more careful about what you put in it. But if you're far away, not only can you not monitor it, you may have the tendency to put things in and not be concerned about the safety. One of the examples I had was when I was on council many years ago. There was a gentleman who wanted to put a storage building near the high school, and I was giving the same opinion to the council at the time that we don't know what's gonna be in there. And one of the other council people, and he was a nice person, said, well, why would anyone put anything bad or dangerous in a storage unit? It's just a storage unit. The very next day in Bedford, there was a storage unit incident where this gentleman, I believe he was like a community college professor, had all kinds of ammunition, guns, that they actually had to take all these things and they took them somewhere and they had them all exploded. And that was seriously less than 24 hours after I expressed that opinion. And it's because, again, people think, well, I don't want that in my house, okay, but it's okay if it's over there. And that's the problem with putting storage units in empty land. If you live somewhere, like, let's say on the west side, you think, well, I'll just put that stuff in Macedonia, and you don't even think about it. But the neighbors on either side, the community all around, this is our home, this is where we live. These types of things affect us. And I don't want to be considered, oh, we'll just junk, we'll junk it over there. And I think that's what it's gonna lead to, is like someone will have what they consider a big lot of a couple acres, they'll store something there. And the Sunset community, I think that we should be passing legislation to help those types of things along.
Hey, could I comment? This person lives extremely close to this property. In fact, this issue wouldn't even be here if they had a connection. They have two pieces of property. One has a frontage on Shepherd, and one has a frontage on Valley View, and they're extremely close, but they're not physically connected by a few feet. So that's why this issue is even here at hand.
But
Well, then why did it generate a complaint?
I do not say
That we're reacting to a constituent's complaint.
someone, you can always complain, I believe it was an anonymous complaint. Someone can complain, when they went to inspect the building was in good condition, there weren't any problems with that building. And we have many buildings here in Macedonia which would not pass that complaint, I would guess, but that's certainly.
Well,
not
if
the
somebody
case here.
didn't have money and the mayor went through all these lengths to try and work out, met with the Board of Zoning Appeals, asked them to please reconsider this case, and they agreed, and we went through all of that, what would some trees and bushes cost?
I do know this. If the Board of Zoning Appeals has to consider hardship. Their ruling was it didn't involve hardship, as I understood it. And so, I don't know how readdressing it with them makes it a hardship case. I thought it was a hardship initially. Their ruling, which they have the right to make, I'm not disputing that, said there was no hardship.
All right, well, there might be a hardship, but it's not right, and we had a way to fix it that was perfectly within anybody's range of buying a few trees and planting them, or bushes. All right, we had a resolution that wasn't even about, we weren't going back to contest the hardship. We were going back with an alternate resolution to the problem.
Well, you were not going to, no one was contesting the hardship except, I would guess, the Board of Zoning Appeals, when they initially ruled on this, ruled, my understanding, the rulings are based on hardship. They said there wasn't, therefore, they weren't going to approve it. Now, whether we go back and plant trees, I don't see how that affects it, but.
Buffer, it's called a buffer, we do it here all the time in these
Well, I'm not
meetings.
saying I'm against it, I'm just saying, I don't know how that affects hardship.
We had,
That doesn't affect hardship.
we had some, I know it's happened in the past where there's been applicants that came to the zoning board of appeals and were denied a variance based on not having hardship. And then they reapplied back to the zoning board of appeals. And they said, well, we never explained this portion of it, and explained the hardship at that time, and I believe the zoning board had changed their mind in the past on certain issues because of whatever conditions that they brought back to the board. I think it was Guardian was the last one, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the one on Valley View?
Yeah, well, Guardian.
Yeah, I believe they came back, I think they were denied the first time, and
They
then
did
came,
change.
and then they did come back with a valid hardship, and then, so my point is that.
They did do that, and they came back, I remember that one quite vividly.
Well, you didn't
Well, you
even
know
have
what,
to
your
pay.
client had the opportunity, I mean, your Mr. Havlicek had the opportunity to come back before us, offered by Don, and talked amongst us, could we see our way to listening to him again? And we said, yes, we will try and figure out a way to work with him, buffering, because we do have, it wasn't an anonymous complaint. There was a man, can't remember his name, but there was a man there that was the neighbor that said there was a lot of junk around there. We didn't just make this up out of the thin air, okay? So, but back to the basic premise of what we have right now, even if you pass this ordinance, it does nothing, you can't go backwards, it does nothing to this other case, okay? And this ordinance, I think, in my estimation, is not really gonna help anybody else. It was just solely written to go backwards and try to help this Mr. Havlicek.
We have a military
it's very
veteran,
evident.
we have a military veteran who has property but doesn't have a lot of money. This has been a very traumatic thing for him and his wife, I'm sure you're aware. And the situation here is that Mr. Engel and I believe that we should try to correct this issue. And if this language isn't, we can make adjustments in language. It's
Well,
not-
language isn't the point. I mean, it doesn't matter what the language says. The point is that he had another opportunity given to him at no cost to go before the board with me on his side. And I've already talked to the board. Did I speak with you?
Yes. And we were willing to relook at this whole situation. So why you're coming up with this backdoor solution that makes no sense.
Well, right.
Well, it's not a backdoor solution, let's not talk.
Go too far. You said, mentioned, I'm sure you're aware. I'm not aware. I don't keep up on all this stuff. I don't watch council meetings, all this stuff. I vaguely know what we're talking about here. So, I mean, so it can be like, I don't want the half hour, like a 3-minute summary. So, he's got a property, there was a house and an accessory building. Is the house gone?
It
Took the
had
house
to be
down.
torn down, it had a hole in the roof for years.
Okay, and that was recently that happened, or?
No, that was quite a while ago, 10
Okay,
years
so this
ago.
has been out of
8
compliance
years.
for a while, but it wasn't until somebody
He
brought
got
it
it.
up.
The
that-
house
that-
was torn down, like, I think, Kevin, almost 15 years ago, and the barn has been sitting there. It's a
I was
beautiful barn.
mayor.
And
I
it's
was
the-
not mayor.
Very
He's
well
actually
maintained.
using it?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're proposing would be legislation that if that happened in the future, it would allow it. But only moving forward?
No,
Is that-
the idea is that this would be, the code within this would be in place so that it's not enforced against anyone in the city who complies with the non-compliant use of this property that's in good shape, has not harmed anybody. That's all we're trying to do. And there's one on North Bedford that does that already. And I'm just saying, we're trying to get something done. This person doesn't have a lot of money. I'm sure that there could be a court case and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to see it there.
Not knowing all the other things, but just thinking about, I mean, has anybody considered what is, there's a reason it was put in the code like this, to not allow these things to be on properties by themselves. Won't let you build one without a primary building, and won't let you take down the primary building. There must be reasons for it. It could be what
Could
these
be
members,
also.
with exactly what they were mentioning. What is the downside of putting this into the code now? Now, somebody could come in from out of town, have a piece of property, build an accessory building on it for whatever,
No, you
I
can't
don't know if
build
anybody's-
that doesn't change that. You
Okay.
cannot build an accessory building without a home.
Okay, but then you've got what Brian has brought up. You've got kind of an oddity in your code that you can do it one way, but you can't do it the other. Why are you allowing it this way and not the other? And we're doing this for one specific property. Is that really the right thing to do? Geez, I don't know. It sure seems like there should be another way
Yeah,
to
well,
solve the issue.
Right, this has been going on really for a very long time, over a year.
And by the way, we were not allowed on the property. We were told through Kayla explicitly, do not go and check out the condition of this barn, you are not permitted on my property. That's what we were told. So we had no way of knowing if this thing was in shambles or as perfectly good as you say it is.
Okay, well,
Okay,
you
so-
know what, I was not told, in fact, I was told the opposite, that there was, you're saying Taylor told you this, the building department told you not to go on the property.
I was told, and what I recall is that, he said, do not go on the property unless contacting him first because his insurance did not cover anybody from falling. or
He just
tripping.
wanted to be there when anybody came, I think, that's what it was.
That's not the message we got.
Yeah, that's what he said even in the BZA meeting, I read the minutes, and that's what was stated in the BZA.
Okay, so,
The BZA.
No, I was at the meeting.
Well, I'm saying the minutes are there, and that's
No,
what was
that-
stated in the BZA minutes.
No, that's not true.
Well, anyway, it almost
That
doesn't matter
came after
for the
first.
issue that we got at hand,
Okay.
that doesn't, none of that really matters.
okay.
But I guess my concern is trying to fix one little problem with a major change in the, you know, I don't, maybe it's not a major change in code, but
No.
changing the code for here to the end of time
Right, it is.
to fix something.
Until the next change. There'll
Until the
always
next
be another
change.
change.
Well, there's always
Coming
change.
down the road, they'll say, wait a minute, that was wrong, we want to
To
put it
fix
back.
one person's issue, and even said, you know, geez, if
We already
we just
had
had a
it.
little connection, you wouldn't even be here.
Mhm.
Was
Well,
anybody
I don't
pursued
understand.
Yeah,
looking
he
into
did.
that
Here's an
connection?
abandoned house right here. If he had just a little bit more property from this guy back here. Here's Valley View, and there's a big frontage in it, where Valley View, there's a big frontage, and there's trees all right here. This is where the old house used to be, and this is where the barn is. It's way back from the street. The barn is beautiful, okay? There's an he
It's
asked the guy.
almost hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden, and he asked the guy, it's gorgeous, it's better than the houses in Macedonia. Okay, so the abandoned house right here, this is where Havlicek lives, right here, okay? He goes through here all the time, he's on that property all the time. His house is on Shepherd, him and his wife, it's all connecting. This, we don't know who made the complaint, he thinks it was this gentleman, okay? He doesn't know, nobody knows, because, yeah, it doesn't matter. So he asked this gentleman who has an abandoned house, for how long's the house been abandoned, Mike, next door to Mr. Havlicek? About 20 years now? 12, 13, with a tree on top of it and holes all in it? 16 years. Have anybody been on Shepherd Road and seen it? It's
No,
really,
I have,
it's a
yeah.
big eyesore. So he asked the gentleman, can I just buy just a little bit of acreage from you? And the gentleman does not want to sell all this house. It's beautiful. It's a century home.
Well, it's beautiful
It's
except
next
for the
to,
hole.
it's right next to where.
So other options have been pursued.
Judge Morgan or.
A connection has been
Yeah.
pursued.
Oh,
as I
yeah, this,
understand.
Havlicek owns this house and this.
I was
all this
told that.
property. It's right, that's how I accessed it. He
Kevin, I
took me
was
through
told
his.
I don't have the letter in front of me, but I can recall that I did send out a letter. I said that one of his, he's got two accessory structures that I could see. The one accessory structure was a shed that was dilapidated that needed to be removed. It was below the zoning code, the building code criteria to trigger a building permit. But it was dilapidated and I asked for that structure. It looked like it was under 144 square feet, but it was falling apart. We asked for that to be removed. I think there was some confusion with his attorney thinking that I asked for the good barn to be removed, when that's not what my letter had stated.
Okay.
But we have two structures, and I did talk to him a while back, and he said he was gonna remove the dilapidated one. So I'm assuming that is completed, but we never wrote a raising of the barn at all. There is no, right now, there is no letter of raising the barn whatsoever.
So you're saying at this time, there's nothing that says he needs to remove that?
Nothing that, I have not given him a formal notice of raising that barn at all, because we have not resolved this issue. But he did have to get rid of that shed that's under 144
Well,
square
I don't think that's an issue from the standpoint.
feet. It was falling down.
It was just a shed.
In my opinion,
That's
I sure would like to see if there's any other way, rather than changing code to deal with one issue for something that I don't think has been fully investigated to what the
Well,
long-term
that's
effects
right
are
now,
of changing the code. There's a reason it was put in there years
Well,
ago.
Assuming that that's true, I know that there would be no desire to have a separate structure. It's clear from the code, they didn't want a separate structure built that would be an accessory structure. without a home. I know that, you can read it, and it's in R1 zoning, so it makes sense. The resolution that has been attempted, as you've just heard, they were under the impression they couldn't go on the property. I think there was a miscommunication of some kind.
And I heard this before, so that's when we talked to the mayor, and the mayor said, you know what, let's just bring this back. We won't charge him a fee to go through another zoning board of appeals hearing,
Okay.
reevaluate it. I think he does have some hardships, Brian and I were just talking about it. I think there's some hardships that he could come up with. You know, obviously I can't steer him in the right direction, but I think that, I mean, I could steer him, I can't tell him what to say.
Well, of
So,
course.
Well,
I can't tell them what to say.
And I think
Yeah.
I think it would resolve the issue without changing the code.
Well,
We,
let's-
you know.
we still have, I never took it off the floor. They told me no. In fact, they told me quite curtly, that was a bunch of malarkey to try and change this, to try and go to a meeting, to try and work with them. They said that was malarkey. Here we have his lawyer. Here we have a proposed zoning change being presented to the planning commission. So that's what we should be dealing with
Who
tonight.
told you? I don't think the attorney spoke that way. I bet you that was just Dan Apchuk telling you that.
Nope, it was an email, it didn't come from there. It was in an email saying, forget it.
Oh, well,
Don, can I make a suggestion? That we go ahead and make a vote on this? I think we beat this
Have
thing
you
to the
guys
ground
seen this
enough.
amendment? I've not seen the amendment that supposedly Mr. Eagle wrote. That's my question. I just
Yeah.
want to see the.
What we could do,
We
Have you seen
have
it?
may I have the floor? We have a proposal before the Board of Planning Commission to allow a zoning code change, all right? We're not saying we don't think there should be another way to fix this. It's strictly that this may not be the way, if it's decided by these people here today to fix it.
right, I get what your point is. I personally would feel that we have to fix it one of two ways. Either there is a way to fix it in the way you're suggesting, or,
Already done.
and I'm not sure that I follow exactly what's already done, but, or I believe this is a non-harmful way to modify the situation such that it won't come back. The other alternative is to be in court, which I would totally be against if we
So-
can avoid it.
So if you're gonna take somebody to the court, yet you don't have money, I mean, this whole thing is blown way out of proportion, it really is.
I think.
All you need to do is have that man come back to the BZA. I was going to appear with them on him. I've talked to the BZA. We all know what's going on. That one accessory building must come down.
Right, but that's
And-
what I
Period.
understood.
All right? Then when it comes to the other one, he can't find a way to work with us. Why? Because Mr. Plot tells him no?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that the concern is that when he went to the original BZA, he was told that something that he didn't say was said, which is nobody can come on his property. And then this led to, I say, an escalating miscommunication problem, and now I see what the miscommunication was about. I would suggest this, there's a couple of things. Mike suggested we come here to present this.
Mhm.
We could obviously proceed without approval, but what I would like to see is this issue be tabled. If we can work out something, then, that resolves this problem in a different manner, I'm willing to listen to that, because I think we need to resolve it. I don't think it's fair what we're doing right now, because this is just causing so much heartache and stress.
Well, then why didn't he go back for the
I think he
BZA at
doesn't-
no fee? At no fee.
I understand
We
that.
made a big deal. He stood there at that mic and thanked me for helping him.
Mhm.
And then I get a letter saying, forget it, that's no resolution.
I think that what we are going to do is to look at the problem and see if you're willing to go forward with that suggestion. I'm not clear at this point, are you? Are you saying that we
But
should
Sylvia,
try?
I
you
never
don't know
went
the
through it.
intentions of Mr.
You
Havlicek.
passed.
You
You
can't answer
passed.
for somebody that's not here.
I understand that, I'm not saying
So, I'm
that.
sorry, you can't say he would, you're saying to him to go
No.
back to BZA, and what if Mr. Havlicek says no? You
No,
can't,
I'm
you're
not
not Mr.
suggesting-
Havlicek,
I'm not suggesting.
you know,
that.
so
Well, let's wind it back, let's wind it back. What I'm suggesting is this, that at this point, I can tell the general tenor of the response is they're not going to approve it,
Oh.
okay? And,
Well, actually, you can't say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't-
that's actually illegal saying that.
no, I'm not talking about BZA at all.
Oh.
So please sit
That's what I thought you were
down.
saying.
I'm thinking about up here,
Yeah.
nobody knows how I feel about this. First of all, I didn't see an amendment. I have no idea what people are talking
Well,
about.
why don't we
So
table
I
it until
think I
we
need to
read-
see an amendment.
You are correct.
Do I have a motion to table?
Wait, and another thing
Okay.
is that Mr. Eagle has worked on legislation. Mr. Eagle is allowed to introduce legislation.
Oh, yes.
And he has worked on this since last year. He took all the ordinances and all kinds of stuff home, and he's been working on this legislation. He's an attorney, and he has a right to introduce legislation. and then we
Nobody's
have a right to-
denying that.
I know that, but she's here, and then Brian France is even saying that we can do it by amendment, okay? Council can amendment, so that's where we're at, but I still would like to see this amendment that Eagle has wrote, and Brian has seen, where I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
No,
Have you seen it?
but we need to vote on what's in front of us tonight. It
Which is
doesn't
an
matter.
amendment that we've not
I
seen.
understand, but
So-
it's here, so then we can't vote on it, right?
Right, correct. I'm suggesting you table it until you see it. Is that reasonable?
Well, and I think that's
Is
up to
there
the
a reason why
planning
we
commission.
didn't get a copy
It
of
was
the
all-
amendment?
It was all emailed over.
I'm the only one that has
Yes.
it. I didn't have it until tonight. I thought there had been changes made, and I saw there was.
That's my only issue.
Right, I understand.
I'm gonna make a motion that we table it and that it's reviewed by the law director as recommended by Brian, and we take it from there. And it goes back to,
Wasn't reviewed? I got a letter from Mr. Deaver here.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, I haven't got anything.
Has somebody else got letters?
October seventh, 2013.
2013.
Oh,
No, that's
No,
not-
that's
that
not
doesn't
it.
contain the-
That's not the.
That's not
And
it.
it completely states exactly what you're saying.
I
No,
second your motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the
Table.
My
motion?
discussion is also there's no way I can support changing legislation when it sounds like there's other ways that this could be dealt with. It's just coming down to hurt feelings and he said, she said crap.
Yeah, but
But
what,
if there's a way to
what
resolve it
started
without
this?
changing.
Somebody
the
drove
code.
by and complained to the building department.
Lives there.
Pardon?
Somebody who lives.
Okay, somebody who
No,
lives,
he
lives
rents
here.
it. He
We
doesn't-
don't know.
yeah,
But
we don't know.
somebody complained to the building department, all right, that this structure does not meet code.
Right.
All right, fine. Building department goes out and looks at the property and says, okay, you've got two structures, this one's terrible, this one's in
Fine.
good shape, looks great, and
Yeah, leave
everything
it
else.
alone.
But you gotta tear this one down,
Yeah,
okay?
that's what I see.
Then it goes back and, let's say the person that complained first says, wait a minute, there's still a structure there, this has gotta be torn down. Now, this is a feud between two people that live close by. It has nothing to do with council, it has nothing to do with codified ordinances, because if that was true, we'd have tore down the manor house a long time ago. Because that was supposed to be torn down, it was illegal not to tear it down, but we didn't. You guys decided, all right, we're gonna help them out and, let them try to get a little farther along. What's the difference? There's no difference. The
Mr.
thing
Vaughn.
is, what do we, I mean, first of all, there's no amendment here. This says that we propose a zoning change related to accessory structures. You came with the city and the city council is proposing a zoning code change related to an accessory structure.
Right.
This means if I move, I tear down my house, it's in bad shape, or the fire department says, well, maybe it's, but I leave the garage, okay? That means then I can do that.
Well, most houses now, they wouldn't leave the garage.
Well, I wanna store my old cars in there.
Yeah. If you do, you have to meet all the compliance to all the codes.
Absolutely, I would.
Okay, what do we do?
Now
We
the
have-
people
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
door, now the
Yeah.
people next door on either side of me have a garage to look at.
And letting the law department look at it as well. And-
All in
They can
favor?
look at
Any other discussion? All in favor?
And
Aye.
can we-
Opposed? Okay, thank you. have, are you Brian? Brian?
No, I'm Chris Alpine.
Okay, for proposed signage for Penske,
Yes.
that's you?
That's me.
Okay. Do you have a card with you?
That'd be great.
Good.
So all these guys just come.
You got two. I lost that. One, two. Thank you. All right, comments?
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I'll read from my memo dated May 11th, 2014. This is for Penske 1261 East Highland Road. The applicant's requesting a 6.25 by 12 foot, approximately 75 square foot wall sign, and a .75 by 1.08 foot, approximately 1 square foot vinyl graphic sign on the glass of the entrance door. Additionally, a sign panel is being proposed in the existing ground monument sign. I reviewed the sign application for compliance with the Plain Zoning Code. Section 1179.03 F2 of the code permits 2 square feet of identification signage for each lineal foot of building frontage. The applicant's building frontage is approximately 220 feet along East Town Road, which provides them with approximately 440 square feet of identification signage. The approximate 75 square feet being proposed complies with the area limitation of the code. Section 1179.074 provides regulations for window signage and states that window signs can't exceed 25% of the total glass area of the ground floor windows. The proposal, approximately 1 square feet, I believe complies with the code limitations. Therefore, at this time, I believe that the proposal can be approved as submitted. Please note there are additional signs, but they're internal signs, which are not regulated under the code.
All right, we have 2 separate subjects tonight. Did that one comment cover them both, Brian? No, I'm sorry, that's another one, okay. All right, are there any other questions or comments on this one? All right, any recommendations?
What was that? Was that you?
Excuse me. I'll make a motion that we accept the sign package proposed for Penske as submitted.
Second?
Have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're a long way to come to a fruitful end.
Thank you very much.
We can argue if you want.
Yeah.
You get
I've
your
had a
real
full
time.
evening.
All right, here's what confused me. We had 2 by the same name. Next was proposed signage for relocation at GNC. Will that be you too?
Yes, that would be.
All right, now we got it. Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My May 10th memo I'll read from. The applicant's requesting to relocate an existing and already approved 2.25 foot by 11.83 foot, or approximately 26.62 square feet, wall sign from their tenant space, Unit 22, to a new tenant space, that unit number is unknown, in the Macedonia Commons. The existing sign contains block-style lettering. The lettering inside return colors are not identified, but since this is an existing sign, the colors are most likely compliant. Based on a review of the common signage criteria, I found that the proposed wall sign at 26.62 square feet is most likely approvable because it is already existing, but the unit frontage is not known. So to truly know if it complies, we'll need to know what that unit frontage is. The color of the lettering and the side returns, again, are not known, but likely comply with the requirements of the commons since it's an existing sign being relocated to a new tenant space. So in order for this proposal to move forward, the applicant will need to confirm the unit frontage and ensure that the maximum allowable area is at least 26.62 square feet. Again, my assumption is that it is acceptable. and that the color lettering and side returns conform with the standards for the commons. Please note the existing under canopy sign is also being relocated, and this sign appears to be the same size and general appearance as all the canopy signs in the commons.
All right. Where's GNC moving to?
They are moving it back to their original location, which is suite number 36.
Wait, what the,
Um,
I'm just curious, it's not that it makes.
Is it over by that,
It's-
also?
It's to the left of Route 21.
Oh, okay.
It's, is it where Don Dash Jewelers used to be?
I can't answer that question.
Because unit 36, 10 to 36 was where Don Dash Jeweler was, and that, yeah, that frontage looks to be 40 feet of frontage, which would provide them with 80.
So one of the issues kind of knocked out if that's the spot.
Yeah, if it's unit, again, unit,
Want the sign up there
30, you said
small,
36,
yeah,
right?
wouldn't it?
I have a screen grab of the site plan.
It's the same size as it was before.
Actually, the current frontage is 18 feet. They're moving back to their original location, and that frontage is 20 feet 6 inches.
Right, but the original location is the signage the same as it was before.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
So it's been approved before, correct?
Goes where the Tux Place used to
Just
be,
got a
that's
bigger
it.
building.
They must have broke, since this point, they must have broke 36 into two.
It's gonna be a canopy there too, as well.
Well,
Under canopy sign?
Anything?
Yes.
Is that-
Reusing the existing sign.
Did the applicant say it's 20 feet of frontage, is that?
20 feet 6 inches.
Which allows them with about 41 square feet, and this would be compliant. And then we just need to confirm the colors.
I do have those. Probably know what a Tux Place
Existing
was.
sign. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, these colors are compliant.
Turnout bronze, I believe is the color scheme.
That's
Bronze.
correct, that's right, turdown bronze.
Returns and trim.
All right,
Make a motion approved.
we have a motion, do we have a
Second.
second? Motion and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You had a long wait tonight,
It was worth
but
it.
it had to be entertaining.
Certainly.
What's
All
Bree
right.
short for, by the way?
Excuse me?
What's Bree short for?
Brianna.
Brianna?
She's my assistant.
Oh, yeah, all right. You can call it.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you very much. We've got a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Caleb, Janelle, did we get everything signed? Everything's done? Yep. That's it? Yep. All right, just get one. Thanks. My email stuff. All right. I still want a copy of that amendment.
I'll send it to you.
I don't have it, I just went on and looked, I didn't get it. I'm like, I did because everybody was talking about it.
She's gonna read the email, let's
I
say.
know, I knew Mr. Neal's been working on something for a long time now. That's like my quote. My email, I see he responded. Huh? That was pretty. I had to jump in.